Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Tiffany here and welcome to another Finding Frazier video. I am here with Miss London, who is not looking at the camera. Can you look right here? Right there? Say hi. Say hey. Hey. This is London. She is actually she will be 7 months. So it's been a whole 7 months since I had her, and I just kind of want to take a step back and reflect on my labor and delivery with her. Yeah, so we're just gonna jump right in to my birth with her, just kind of get started into the story and just my thoughts and reflections on how everything went down. Everything happened on a Sunday, December 30th. Just some previous background information. I was having contractions probably about 2 months prior to giving birth. So when I would feel contractions, it got to a point where it's kind of like, is this real? You know, am I really going into labor? Because they would be like legit painful, and it was past the point of Braxton Hicks, as far as just the tightening and letting go. But when I would go, they would check me. The most was like I was at a 1 and nothing was happening past that. So fast forward today, I actually was in labor. It started off just as another Sunday, and you know, I was feeling contractions all through the night and that morning, but it was no different from the, you know, the level of pain was no different from any other day as far as the contractions I was having before. So, you know, I just was like, let's go to church. You know, ain't nothing happening, you know. And on top of that, the day before, I actually went in for an NST, because when you go, I was past my due date. She was due on December 26th. I actually went in for an NST, and they was like, you know, the nurse that was in there, she was like, "It's nothing going on. Yeah, this is gonna be like a New Year's baby, 2019 all the way. This baby is not coming in 2018. You know, this was that Saturday before, so this is the 29th, and they check nothing, but they did see the contractions like coming, and they was like, we see the contractions, but there's nothing happening, you know, besides we do see the contractions but no dilation. And they asked me how I felt, and I was like, I'm fine, you know, it's a little uncomfortable, but you know, it's all good. So that Sunday, you know, when I was feeling the contractions, I'm just like, nothing gonna happen, let's go to church, let's get ready. And it wasn't actually until we were on our way, because we stayed further out from our church. We kind of stayed a little bit further, you know, not far, but I want to say it took us about a good 30 minutes to get to church. And so I started having the contractions consistently in the car, and I mentioned it to my husband, and he was like, yeah, baby, today's the day, maybe we're going somewhere with this. And you okay? I think she's getting sleepy, but you know, he was like, maybe we're going somewhere with this. And I'm just like, you know, I'll start timing them, but it is probably nothing. So we got to Sunday school, and I want to say that morning, I can't remember if he was actually teaching Sunday school that Sunday. I don't know. But in Sunday school, he was teaching Sunday school. They were becoming very consistent, the contractions. They were about 18, no, they were about 15 minutes apart, not 18, 15 minutes apart. And when I saw that, you know, I was like, well, maybe it's gonna die back down and slow back down, because that's happened before. And sure enough, it just kept getting closer and closer. So by this time, Sunday school had ended. You know, we had praise and worship, all that, and the preaching was going forward, whatever. My dad was preaching or whatever. And the contractions were getting closer and closer. And by this time, they were like 8 minutes apart. And we weren't like exactly that far from the hospital. But when I saw that it was either 8 or 9 minutes apart, I told my mom, because I was sitting next to my mom, and I text Jarvis, because before church I was like, just keep looking at your phone. If I text you, you need to go. I'm not about to have no baby in church. I'm not about to have my water break in church. We need to go. And so I told her, I was like, you know, they're consistent. And my mom was like,
yeah. What you talking about? You want to say something? You want to say something? Look right there. Hey. Hi, Lennon. Hey, Lennon. Yeah. You want to say something? You want to say something? Well, she's going to say good night, good night, good night, good night, good night.
Okay, so I had to put the baby in the bed, but yeah. So I was sitting next to my mom, and I told her like the contractions were, you know, about 8 or 9 minutes apart. I'm getting ready to go, and then she was like, wait until you can't breathe through them. And as soon as she said that, the next contraction, you know, they were tolerable, but they were painful, and I knew like, this is happening. This is happening. And so when the next one came, like after she said like, wait until you can't breathe through them, after that one, I was like, let's go. Like, my husband by that time was already sitting next to me, because usually he's sitting either by the drums or by the organ or somewhere. And he was sitting next to me, and I was like, let's go. And it was to the point when, I kind of laugh about this now, when we got up, he was walking, and I guess he wasn't walking fast enough for me, so I kind of gave him like a little nudge, like, can you kind of move it on, you know, like, let's go. But in all actuality, I just didn't want to have another contraction, like stand and go as I'm walking out. But when we were leaving, it's actually a Chinese spot right by the church, and they have the most bomb like Chinese rice. I had to order me some, so I ordered some Chinese rice. He got it for me, and on the way I was eating it, and as I'm eating, like the contractions are getting stronger and stronger. And once we arrived at the hospital, and actually, okay, so my camera just randomly shut off. It's been doing that, but yeah, pretty much where I left off is once we arrived at the hospital, everything was very intense. It was to the point that I had to stop walking during my contractions before I could walk and have the contractions and just kind of breathe through it. But once we got to the hospital, I would have to stop and like process and just breathe and just focus on getting through the contraction. Once we got to the triage, the lady, they hooked me up to the monitors, and the nurse was like, yeah, you definitely got something going on here. And when she checked me, oh my goodness. Now mind you, I have been getting checked for several weeks before this, and the day before. I was there the day before at the hospital for the NST, and they checked me, And you know, it's uncomfortable, but it's, you know, it was no pain per se. But when she checked me, I was in like excruciating pain. And it just felt like, are you trying to pull the baby out right now? Or like, that's how intense it was. And so we got through all of that. And she was like, yeah, you're out of 4. You're definitely ready. But yeah, so after that, she was like, we're gonna get you changed and we're gonna get your room ready. And she was like, do you want to like walk around while they get your room ready just to get things going, you know, keep it progressing, or do you want to wait here? And so I was like, yeah, let's walk, like let's get this show. Like, I don't want a marathon, you know. I had that with my first child. I was like, let's go, let's do this. So I get changed into my hospital gown and I'm getting ready to get out the bed. I lift my feet up, plant them on the ground, and I feel this heavy weight in between my legs. And I just remember just like bracing myself because it felt like a bowling ball was like coming out. My camera stopped recording again. I don't know why it doesn't want me to record tonight, but we're getting through the story anyways. But I just remember feeling this pressure, like this bowling ball, and bracing myself. And my husband was like, what is going on? What's happening? And I just closed my eyes and whoosh, my water broke everywhere. Like, it was everywhere. And I remember my husband Jarvis was going in and out like the curtain in the triage area because the nurse had left. And I didn't know what he was thinking, but when I asked him afterwards, he thought like the baby was coming out like right then and there. So he's like pacing back and forth like, oh, she's gone. You know, I don't want to leave you. You know, it's like he's going in and out. And I think after she came, she was like, oh, you know, wow, I guess we're not walking. And we're like, no, we're not. And so we went in the room, and the contractions, we moved along. They did give me some type of drug. When I get the name of it, I cannot remember, but it's pretty much like you're high. Like, you feel the pain, but you're just in the clouds, like your mind is separated from your body. It was some type of magical drug that I was on, but they gave me that, but it only lasted like, I think, an hour. It didn't, you know, the pain was back. So they kept asking me did I want an epidural, and I kind of went into everything with an open mind, you know, pretty much saying that I'm gonna try to go as far as I can, you know, without an epidural. And if I can, just not get an epidural at all, you know, have it all natural. But if I feel like it's just too much and, you know, that's what I want, that's what I want. And so they checked me around 7, I think, or 6 or 7, somewhere around there. And I was at an 8, I believe I was at an 8. And then some more time went by, and they checked me. I'm sorry if I'm stalling. They checked me again not too much longer after, and the doctor was kind of like, you're ready, but she's high. And I'm like, what does that mean? So at this point, I am in excruciating pain. I'm like hitting the bed, like literally, like the pain is getting, you know, before I was breathing through it, you know, it was like, yeah, I got this. And then it just got to the point where the contractions were like non-stop. Like they would not stop. They were on top of each other. So my contractions were probably like 7 seconds apart, no joke. But they would not stop. It just was like a constant contraction, and I was shaking, and it was to the point I was like, give me the epidural. And I do remember the nurse saying, she was like, well, technically you don't need it at this point. We're just waiting for you to relax. You know, the baby is too high. And I don't know if I didn't respond, but I'm just like, there's no relaxing happening. You know, I can't, like the pain is so aggressive, so strong, and I'm just like, give me the epidural. And they was like, she's in surgery, which they told me earlier, if I, you know, wait, it's a possibility she might be in surgery. And she was. And finally she came. It was nice little older lady, but she came, and because I demanded the epidural, and looking back at it, I didn't technically need it because I was fully dilated, but they was like, they had, you know, they put they were trying to position me in a way to get her to drop down, but it's like she wouldn't, because my body was so tensed up, like the baby's head wouldn't drop, I guess, where they wanted it to for me to push. And so so I was like, they was like, okay, we're gonna give you the epidural. And so my mom and my husband walk out the room. So I definitely have to wrap this video up because my camera is just acting crazy. But when it came time for the epidural, my contractions were on top of each other. And so I was turned, my back was hunched over, and she was like, let me know when your contraction is over. And so once the contraction was over, I was like, it's over. But at this point, they were so close, it's like you have to do it like quick. So I said, the contraction is over, and I turned because I hear her opening the packet like, oh. Taking the needle out, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And I just was like, it took everything in me not to just like scream, like, what are you doing? Like, that's how I felt. You know, just imagine being the worst pain in your life, and you're just like, what is going on? Like, why isn't it ready? Why isn't it hooked up out the pack and ready to be, you know, stick in my back? But anyways, I got the epidural, and nothing happened. Nothing changed at all when she gave me the epidural. And so after she gave it to me, I'm still like trembling because the pain is intense. My whole body is shaking, and I'm like moaning in the same pain. And she was like, do you feel it working? And I was like, no, it's not working. I think we need to redo it. It's not working. And she was like, oh, it's gonna work, and just left. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, what just happened? And they turned me back, like, because I was, you know, hunched over on my side. They turned me back over, and they was like, do you feel your legs? And I'm like, yes. And I lifted up my leg. I lifted up the other leg, and, you know, I'm just trying to show them, like, I feel everything. I can move everything. You know, it's not working. And the nurse kept saying, oh, well, it's time to push. literally like 10 seconds after they gave me that fake epidural, whatever that was, because it didn't work. But she was like, it's time to push. And the doctor was like, oh, the epidural did what we wanted it to do. It made the baby drop. And I'm just like, I know some people would be kind of like mad. I wouldn't necessarily say I was mad. It was just kind of like, did y'all really just pull like a okie doke on me? Like, you know, they did tell me I really didn't need it, but I think they kind of was okay with me getting it because they knew once they gave it to me, it would cause the baby to kind of push down. But there was no pain relief. Like, you know, I didn't have a natural birth, but, you know, technically I didn't have a natural birth, but I felt all the pain that comes along with having a natural birth. And yeah, so the baby dropped, and so it was like when my husband and my mom came back in, they was like, oh, she's ready to push, but you just gave her the epidural. And so they look at me like, she still looks the same. But yeah, it was like painful. It was brutal. I felt the ring of fire, you know, when you're pushing the head out. I felt all of that. With Caleb, it was more so like a lot of pressure, you know, and that's, you know, that's how the epidural is supposed to be, like with Caleb. Like, so that's what I expected, but no, I felt every single thing that was going on. I felt all the pain, like all the pain. But, you know, I did push. It was actually, I didn't have to push very long. It's like when you feel that pressure, you feel that pain, it's just something inside of you that just is like, get her out, get him out, you know, he or she, whatever it is, just get this baby out of me. And so I pushed, and actually that's probably my husband calling me, but she was born, and I would not change how everything went. I'm happy she's healthy, and yeah, it was a doozy trying to record this video, but thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Good night, good night, good night, good night, good night.